us this month. I know that for the last 2 months, we've been talking a lot about intellectual property protection. Those conversations were fantastic. But I also knew it is the beginning of the year. Well, when I started planning this, it was still the beginning of the year. So I wanted to give everyone a chance to put together some structural plans for how they would grow their business in 2025 and beyond. One of the things that I think I take for granted is that I've had the pleasure to study economics several times over the course of my life, starting in high school, taking college level and even grad school level courses in econ. And so there are certain things that I'm just used to thinking about, but everybody studies different things and everybody has different areas of expertise and levels of exposure to certain concepts. So I realized that when we're planning our businesses, yes, it is important to understand micro level data, and even macro level data about things like market research, our competitors, but we also need to understand just core concepts of macro and microeconomics. I have the pleasure of having access to some amazing folks, and they are brilliant at what they do. And so I get to ask all of these amazing questions, and they humor me constantly with my incessant questioning about this stuff. And I wanted to introduce you to them as well. These two gentlemen represent two organizations that I think are doing such a fantastic job at creating incredible opportunities for American businesses to scale their companies and have greater reach, more productivity, and more satisfaction as entrepreneurs by understanding what is available to them to support growing and scaling their businesses. So, without further ado, I would like for these two gentlemen to introduce themselves. I'm going to start with my hometown hero, who is from the Metro Atlanta Chamber. And then I'm going to take you to someone who is representing all of us across the country through the work that his agency does. So I'm going to start with my hometown hero, Dr. Parrish.
Thanks, Caitlin, and welcome everybody. I'm Dr. Jerry Parrish. I'm the Chief Economist of the Metro Atlanta Chamber. And there's no regional or state chamber in the country except ours that has a full time chief economist. And the reason we do that is so we can help people get the correct data and the correct information. I run the economic research team here. We supply data to the economic developers in our organization that are recruiting companies to come in here, from other states and internationally. And I also work with our policy team. We've got their legislative session going on now. So do a lot of policy analysis and, just economic impact studies and those kind of things. But glad to be here today.
And I just want to make a quick note too about Dr. Parrish. He is very humble, y'all. Let me just say that. He hosts webinars. I want to say, were they every 2 months? I feel like they were every month because I know I was getting some great information very frequently from you. But he would host webinars to talk about the state of Atlanta's economy. I found that so fascinating, especially as someone who is a transplant, because I'm new to the area. And so being able to learn about how the economy has shifted, especially during the pandemic, the outlook, the companies that are coming, how the economic landscape is shifting, that has been such an incredible value add. So, like he said, that's an Atlanta exclusive. So if you want that type of information, you're gonna have to just wiggle your way down, across, or up if you in Florida to get a little bit of this. But again, the work that you do, Dr. Parrish, is just so amazing, and I'm truly grateful for it. All right, so now we gonna flip it over to my federal friend. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Nadal Gibran. I am a program analyst with the Economic Management Directorate's U.S. Census Bureau. I'm primarily the technical lead for a few of our data tools. The majority or the largest one that we consider is the Census Business Builder. Census Business Builder started off as sort of a more of an experimental data product about 10 or so years ago. And since then, it's garnered all sorts of enthusiasm throughout all of the promotions that we've done, webinars such as this, and in the from the reactions of our data users, as well as their suggestions for improvement, we've been able to enhance the product considerably over the past few years. So I'm very excited to share this data product with you all. For those of you who are new to this, you are in for a surprise, for a big treat. For those who are more seasoned users, I'm looking forward to sharing some of our updates to the tool. Um, and again, it's very nice to be with you as well as our extreme colleagues here on the panel. Thank you.
I'm so happy that you said that, Nadal, because I'm actually on a contract through the Atlanta Beltline, which is another Atlanta exclusive. So again, it's all type of stuff happening in Atlanta. So y'all might want to just, get over here.
Hmm.
But the Beltline, they have this opportunity for small businesses to increase their presence along the Beltline. And I offer small business advising services through this particular program. Every advising appointment, I introduce them to the Business Builder. It is always so helpful because a lot of the businesses are expanding onto the Beltline. So they already have existing businesses in other places in the metro Atlanta region. But when we're having conversations about marketing, new pricing, new offerings, new packages, new bundles, new combos for the restaurants and food service businesses, I'm like, hey, if the average income is different over there, you might want to rethink that. Maybe you want to change your color scheme. Maybe you want to add a different colorway if you sell shoes or clothing. So, again, all of these things matter, and these tools that are available to you are an incredible way for you to get the information that you need, and an incredible way for you to not only just get the information, but begin to apply it intelligently. Because, as you will see, from the Census Business Builder, things change quite a bit, and it can shift from area to area, city to city, neighborhood to neighborhood. So, Nadal, I'm going to turn it right back over to you to explain a little bit more about that to us.
Sure. Well, Census Business Builder does offer the capability of utilizing all of our various economic and socioeconomic and demographic data available. Um, and through the tool, you can use various combinations of socioeconomic data and economic data. So, for instance, if you were interested in the payroll or average payroll or revenue of restaurants in the Metro Atlantic region, you can certainly create customized reports as well as really beautiful data visualizations on the Census Business Builder map to bring that data to life. And the good thing about this is that through the use of these reports, not only are they customizable, but they are highly interactive. They are very intuitive, very easy to read and to follow. And we like to think of these reports as serving multiple purposes. They can be used as marketing plans, business plans, grant applications for various uses as well. So again, I'm looking forward to sharing this information with you. Hopefully, I'll be able to walk through this in more of an interactive way because I really think that will really help really drive this home for you all.
I pulled up the tab. I'm hoping that the internet connection will let me continue sharing the tab. So I have it pulled up. Y'all,
Hmm.
I just want to just show you this is what it looks like on the tool. You can search by location, type in the zip code, and again, we'll get back to this in just 1 second. But it is a very, very useful tool, super helpful. Again, I love it. I use it for my own business and
Hmm.
thinking about how I want to navigate. And I'm a service based business too. So I also want to make sure that that is an important note. All of what we're going to talk about today can be helpful for both service based and product based businesses. If you are a home based business or if you have a physical location, if you specialize in offering only online services or brick and mortar or both. This information that we're sharing today, again, it's about economic tools, data, and concepts that will support you in building the business of your dreams. All right. So I'll stop sharing briefly. All right. Anything else we want to share is just an opener with the people. Because again, I think that this starting point is important because folks a lot of times don't even know that this stuff is available. All right, we good. All right, so let's talk about question number one. So I put the questions over here in the chat. If y'all see me looking to the side, that's where I'm going. All right, so small business owners, and this is something that I struggle to continue doing myself, we are challenged with shifting our thinking from being consumers only to being in a hybrid consumer producer role in the economy. What economic metrics or tips can you share with other founders and entrepreneurs like me who are looking to grow our understanding of producer centered economics? I'm going to start with Dr. Paris because this is like Econ 101. I'm getting the heebie jeebies thinking back to undergrad at Michigan, freshman year, and all of the hoops we had to jump through in that intro to econ class.
Thanks, Caleb. When I should probably tell everyone that for a while I was the chief economist for the Florida SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, and so I've got a background in not only helping to start a small business, but actually giving them advice. And before we even start about the economics of this, one of the things that I think is the most important is when you're trying to spread your time between being a consumer and a producer, is that you think about your business, even if it's just a home-based business or whatever, that because what happens is you end up working in the business all the time. Doesn't matter when, if you have a small business, that's permanent, one is your house. I think the biggest reminder that I would teach everyone first is to spend time working on the business, not just working in the business. And this tool that you're going to see more of here from the Census Bureau is a great way to start. So make sure you allot some time to do research using the tools that are available. There's a lot of people out there that will help you. It's surprising to a lot of small business when they first start at how many federal and state programs that are out there to help them, how many private consultants that do this all the time. And honestly, it takes your learning curve from super steep to to very very modest, to where you can learn about operating a business and learn where your market is and learn those kind of techniques that'll keep you safe and sane and away from the IRS. I mean, one of the most simple things that I can tell people is, have a separate checking account for your business. I have a small business. It's a farming business, and you never cross checks. You always pay out of your farm account or your business account, and you always keep that separate because the last people you want finding you is the IRS on something like that.
No, that was a good note to end on, especially because it's tax filing season. Thank you for that. But I think that that's really important because you're right. When we think about consumer economics, producer economics, supply versus demand side, it feels overwhelming. And I also want to say this because I know sometimes for entrepreneurs, depending on your experience, especially with K through 12 education, sitting reading about some of this stuff is like you could feel the panic attack coming on. Just take your time. They have amazing resources. The census has great resources. All types of resources are available with cartoons, YouTube videos to teach you about these things slowly so that you can scale your knowledge. One of the things that has been such an important shift for me is remembering that to be honest, so as a business owner, in the moments where I am encouraging other people to spend, that doesn't mean I should spend too. Because again, now I need to look from the producer lens. And so, for example, I did a major tech audit in my company in December. And I was like, man, I'm paying for all these subscriptions for things, and they just been on autopilot for years. And I was like, am I using this? And come to find out, one particular service that I've been using, they've been doing some major launches and upgrades. And a lot of the things that I was paying extra money for is actually included in what I already paid for with that major system. When I say I went crazy on the canceling spree, like I was like, nope, 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 nope. And I was just knocking things off because in my mind, I was like, no, I'm not a consumer. My goal is not to just consume. Whatever I purchase, put into my business, it is an investment that should get me a return. So if the return could actually be met through something I'm already paying for, it is my responsibility as the business owner to minimize that expense. So again, it does take kind of shifting the lens. And to Dr. Parrish's note, and I'm sure Nadal is going to back this up too, set aside time to focus on this. As business owners, we are doing a million things at once. But when you start doing study, research, trying to look at metrics, going over and auditing your business reports and financials, that's not something you want to be multitasking doing, because you really need to focus and kind of have a clear head. So these tools that we're talking about today, these concepts, these points of research and study, please set aside time to do that. It might even just be 30 minutes, right? Once a week, but that time is going to help you significantly. All right, Nadal, tell us a little bit more about how we can utilize census resources to think from the producer side. Because most people, when they hear census, they just think of that thing we fill out every 10 years, but it's so much more than that. So tell us how you all show up for business owners every day, to be quite honest.
Well, certainly, yeah. I mean, Census Bureau is fairly synonymous with our 10-year population count. That's something that we're all familiar with, and that's what we associate with census when we hear of the Census Bureau. And it's unfortunate because census does so much more than that. We are responsible for the 5-year economic census. We produce annual county business pattern data, all sorts of indicators. Um, we collect data on international trades. The data that we collect goes into various important metrics, including gross national, gross domestic product, and that sort of thing. So, of course, a large component of that is the producer side of things. You know, business owners, business related data. For instance, if we can maybe switch to the Census Business Builder screen, I can do that if you like, or maybe you can switch to your session. Okay, great. Um,
And
so
sorry,
yes,
y'all. So I'm gonna be sharing, and the dollar's gonna be feeding me the directions because
okay,
the browser was acting funny. So we
absolutely.
we gonna get y'all this information today by hook or crook, and so
Mhm.
I'm gonna be playing Vanna White. Go ahead, Nadal.
Okay, well, since I'll be doing a lot of talking, I hope that my volume is okay and I'm audible. Is that okay? Great. So this is the Census Business Builder website, and I think it'd be helpful if I put the link in the chat as well for everybody in case you'd like to follow along. So let me grab that link here. And also, I would like to share that Census Business Builder is mobile optimized, so you are free to follow along on your mobile devices, tablets, all sorts of devices of various sizes. It's optimized for everything and all sorts of devices there. So I'm just trying to find a chat to put this in. Would this be in the studio chat where I can include?
Don't
Oh,
worry
here we go.
about it. I got you. I just dropped it in there to the main page, which then will take you to the link to that. I got you.
Oh, you got it. Okay, thank
Listen,
you.
I'm good at this Vanna White
You
thing.
are,
If I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
do nothing else,
Okay,
go right ahead.
let's go. So, all right, great. So I know that the first thing we should do is just to identify a region, a geographic area that we're interested in evaluating. And just if you look at the top left of that screen, you'll see there's a box where you can begin searching. Well, we're going to ignore that splash page in the middle. So if you just hit that X right there,
Okay, cool. I was gonna search the 30308
you can
one
do that
because
as
I'm
well.
like, that's by Ponce City Market. I used to live in that area when I first moved to Atlanta. So I'm like, I
Okay.
know that zip code.
Yeah, well, let's use this at there because this here you can really visually see the different geographic layers that are available. You can search by, you can narrow things by state, metro, county, and city, town, zip code, and tract. Let's do the metro because I know that I heard the Atlantic metro area was mentioned, so I think that would be good to connect with our audience today. So just type in metro and then just type in the first few letters of Atlanta. And as you can see, the search results are, in this sort of hierarchy and descending fashion from metro down to the lowest level. So looks like Atlanta, Sandy Springs metro would be a good selection for us. And as we click on that, um, sometimes the system does, it may be slower at sometimes than others, depending on
I think
the.
it's my internet connection more than anything.
Oh,
I'm not
okay. I
gonna
was.
hate on y'all today. I'm the problem, y'all.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it could be that, or it could just be the overall demand of the bandwidth and the use of Census Business Builder, or folks that are using other data products at the time. We all sort of share the same API.
I'm gonna
So,
refresh the page, but keep going, Nadal.
okay. So, what I was going to say is, so we're talking about producer side business data. So what you have access to in Census Business Builder is pretty much all of the data items that we collect and publish throughout the economic census. This includes revenue data, payroll data, um, and everything in between. We've got payroll for employer businesses, for non-employer businesses. While this is loading, if you want to go click at the top middle ribbon where it says establishments in the middle right there, and this is the universe of all the data that is available in Census Business Builder. We've got all of our data is organized into primary categories, and in some cases there are secondary categories as well. So starting at the primary category towards the left, we have the consumer's residence primary category, and we like to think of this as data that encapsulates our customers. So, and we've got various subcategories here. Demographic characteristics, obviously this is the demographic characteristics of our customers. So we've got our total population, male, female, other demographic sort of information there. The next would be our socioeconomic characteristics. This
Nadal, can
is
I stop you for 1 second? Sorry, y'all. I'm gonna be jumping in with things just based off of
sure
what
thing.
I know I've talked to my advising clients about. So the
Mhm,
reason why that age demographic is so important is because let's say you just looked at just sheer population numbers and you're like, oh, there are 60,000 people in this county. Right, but if 60% of them are under 18, I don't know many 12-year-olds that are going out to buy like a brand new set of bath towels, right? So if you're
right.
selling
Mhm,
home goods or things like that, you would need to pay attention to who is in the buying age, right? It
precisely.
also might be helpful because there is a ton of research that shows, especially for home products, things like grocery shopping,
Mhm,
women tend to be the consumers for the family. So if you are thinking of opening a brick and mortar store in an area that just happens to be predominantly male and it is for again is maybe it's a grocery store or something like that, you might not get a lot of foot traffic and you may want to reconsider where
mhm,
you open that location or just rethink your marketing plans to concentrate marketing to make it
mhm.
attractive for people who might want to come in. So just want to just toss that out.
Very good point. Very good point. And Census Business Builder does a fantastic job of visually displaying all of this information for us. So you first mentioned age breakouts, right? So if we scroll down, you can see we have various different age size classes, 18 and over, or was that? Yeah, 18 and over, 21 percent working age. So if you're interested in opening a brick and mortar to serve folks that are sort of working, maybe a place that folks can meet up for meetings or on coffee breaks, that kind of thing, a nice cafe, this might be your target clientele right there.
And
Um,
another note, sorry about, I know this, I love stuff like this.
Same,
Another note
likewise.
about that working age. Here's why that's important. Everyone working doesn't just mean having any job. It is something that you might want to think about for the potential for exposable or disposable income. So if you think about what happens when you're about 25, you probably are settled in a career field. You might either be salaried or at least making above whatever the minimum wage for your field is. You may have more disposable income, right? You are the person managing the household, so you can spend money on that person is more likely to be able to spend money on
Hmm.
whatever it is that you're selling. So again, that's that differentiator between 18 to 25. I'm thinking back to when I was in undergrad. No, I was not spending $300 on anything because I didn't have $300. But when I graduated and got my first big girl job, I can
Hmm.
make some shake. So again, you can play with these numbers to even think through. Another element is to think through how you want to grow with your customers. So let's say you're planning on launching a business and keeping it around for 10 years. If you see that there's a very large population that is currently between, let's say, 18 to 25 right now, in 10 years they'll be able to afford, let's say, higher priced items or a different evolution of your product or service, and you can
Hmm.
grow with them and drive that customer affinity and loyalty. So that's
Hmm.
something else to think about. It's not just localized to one moment in time.
Absolutely. There's definitely some characteristics that are associated with these size classes, like percent working age perhaps have much higher spending power than other folks, folks that are maybe at 65 and older, maybe on more of a fixed income, that kind of thing. So depending on what kind of business you like to open, A lot of times when I'm giving these demonstrations, a very relatable case I bring up is if you want to open up a fancy kind of a high-end restaurant for folks that like to go in and spend money and have money to spend. Well, that will be someone probably in this category, percent working age, as well as folks with higher median income, which is another data item that you could bring in. If you scrolled over to the next secondary category, socioeconomic characteristics, it's to the right of, yeah, you go back to consumers, residents, yeah, and then to the right of demographics. So this is the economic condition of your customers and all sorts of very valuable socioeconomic data here. The one that we are pointing to might be median household income right there. So, if you combine this particular data item with the percent working age, then you have a very valuable indicator of folks that are at the highest spending power of their lives, and you can really have the sliding scale of how much money they have via their median income. So, and that's just a very good way to commingle two bits of data together, combined with the features of this map to determine different areas of investment. And then when you bring in industries, that really helps you target those industries as well and to really fine tune your business decisions. So if we're talking about restaurants, just you could type in restaurants right there. Okay, and as you notice, when you type anything in there, the dashboard, everything else automatically responds to whatever you're typing. It's very interactive. And right now, as you can see, looking at our dashboard, this is called our dashboard, by the way. The dashboard here, we've got four to the right. We've got four data items that you can customize and you can swap those out with whatever you like. And so those four just come kind of pre-programmed into Census Business Builder, but you can click on the pencil and switch around anything you like there to satisfy your use case. And to the left of that, we've got the far left of that dashboard, we've got two additional data items, and these are called the primary and secondary map variable, and these will be reflective in the legend as well as the map. So I like to use this for what we're talking about. So the first one is median household income, and that's our primary map variable. If you were to select the blank box below that, it brings you to that screen where you can select something like that percent working age or working age, which is somewhere along there. Maybe it's up a little bit, or I'm sorry, you're going the right direction. I apologize. It was okay, great. So now you notice the map has changed because we've got our primary and secondary map variable, which are which are showing on the map right now. So the primary map variable um, basically corresponds, it's mapped to the color of the different geographic areas. So the darker the area is, the higher the number of whatever that variable represents. So median household income, if you look to the darker metros, that means there's a higher income in those areas. Um, the circle is the proportional circle, which represents the secondary map variable, which in this case is percent working age. So just using your eyeballs, you can see, which metro areas have a high concentration of working age folks with high median salaries. And without doing too much, you can kind of get an idea of where you could start your search if you'd like to build this kind of a business. And keep in mind, we're just looking at metros. So metro is a large area, okay? We can drill down to county level as well. So if you look towards the top left where metro is
You know
selected
what?
on,
Real quick, Nadal, because I want
Mhm.
to get some follow up information from Dr. Parrish with that. Because, like, for example, Metro Atlanta is really like what 29 counties, if I'm not mistaken, which is a wide swath. So this is just a very small chunk of what technically is considered Metro Atlanta. Dr. Parrish, when you're thinking about just like economic insights and when you are giving your perspective and sharing with Metro Atlanta area businesses, how do you help them see these smaller data sets, but then think about how they can then map that out to multiply the same impact to grow their company, if that makes any sense. I hope I'm asking it right.
Yeah, that is a great question. And, honestly, I send them to the data.census.gov, so the Census Bureau. And what I tell them, they seem to think that there's nothing, sub-county level data available. They've seen the metro, they've seen a state level, they may have seen a county. But I tell them, and it's not just census data, there's other data out there. For every zip code, there's 1,100 pieces of data for every year that are available. It's amazing when you find out all the data, so you can, track it down even further than that, census blocks and census tracts, but business people don't really understand what those are, so I typically talk about zip code. But when I tell them that there's 1,100 pieces of data, and it may be, what percentage of people don't have a car, and those kind of things, household size and incomes and just crazy stuff, all kind of demographics and stuff. That what I do is point that out to them that they're not limited to metro-wide or county-wide data. That there's tons and tons of data, and most of it comes from Census Bureau.
Thank you so much for that. It's interesting. I have to shout out Nadal's coworker, Larry Carter, who actually was a guest on my podcast last year. He talked about and explained and defined what is a census tract. He talked about the differences between the pieces of data as well, exactly what Dr. Parrish just described. So I'm going to be sure to link that episode in the comments where these live streams will be posted permanently so you all can check that out. Thank you so much for that perspective, Dr. Parrish, because you're right. That car, especially in a metro region like Atlanta, you really need a car to navigate through. And many metro areas are like that. I think, honestly, the only ones that you probably could get away with are like Chicago and New York, which I've had the pleasure of living before. And it was very easy to use public transportation, but they are anomalies, right? They are very much outliers in that conversation. So again, if you're thinking about building a brick and mortar business that is not online based, you guess what? You're going to need to know the percentage of poverty rates, of working age, that median income, etc. Even I saw one of the variables was number of housing units, things like that. All of those pieces of data, to what Nadal and Dr. Pear said, you don't have to just look at them individually. You can put them together to tell a story and to form a narrative for yourself of the choices that you want to make. Last thing I'll say about this is that another characteristic that I think is super important to look at is the number of people, if you're looking at age, but working, of course, as well, but also thinking about um, the number of people in the household. So again, just because I make 82,000, if I tend to have 6 or 7 people in my household in that area, guess what? My money is not stretching any further than somebody who may make less money and have fewer people in the household. You also want to think about, for all of my e-commerce businesses and online based businesses, you also want to consider broadband access. So when you're thinking about rural areas or areas that maybe don't have the same level or type of broadband connectivity, guess what? You can't necessarily be browsing and buying and doing all of the super cool things. Or if you are building an app and all of the stuff we do with AI, it requires you to have a great connection to the internet. If you don't have access to that, that might not be your market. Or if you're still thinking about expanding in there, perhaps you might think about combining your for profit work with philanthropic efforts to bring that access and connectivity to people. So I just want to emphasize, it's not that when you look at this data, it's telling you what to do, it's simply informing a story that will help you to then make an informed decision. You can still do whatever it is that you like. You can make the best choice that you can, need to, and want to, but you have the information to make that better choice. All right. Anything else on this part, Nadal, before we move on to the next question? This is such a cool resource.
Just to add to that, you mentioned average household size. That is also a data feature that is available in Census Business Builder. You can pull that into your dashboard and use that as part of your calculation. And that's, I believe it should be in the socioeconomic characteristics section uh, within consumers' residence. You may see average household size should be around the first block of information there. So, yep.
Yep, it updated. And so now you'll see everybody that is 2.7. So honestly, that looks like maybe a married couple or a partnered couple with one child, or maybe a single parent with about one or two kids, or perhaps empty nesters, right? So then this is where you would cross that data with things like age, percentage of folks under 18 to help you make an informed decision about what the individual pieces of data are showing you.
Mhm.
And then I like that it compares to other similar, I'm assuming this is similarly sized regions.
It is, yeah. So you're looking at geo
Mhm.
rankings across similarly sized regions. The next tab over is time series within that same group. So time series is very good because it kind of gives you the ability to forecast and observe trends for this particular package of data items that you're looking at to make your own analysis. And then finally, we've got the geo comparison, which compares and I will say that we're looking, in this case, it's comparing median household income. The reason why it's comparing that item is because that is what is set as the primary map variable towards the left. So if you were to swap something else, say median house, if you were to go to, if you can switch anything else out, that will replace that comparison, and the charts will update accordingly. Now we're looking at, high school attainment and how that compares to from the current geographic level to the next highest. So looks like we've got slightly higher
Yeah, Atlanta is killing it.
Atlanta
Like, let me
City
just say
than U.S. nationally. So
that. And I know Dr. Parrish can chime in on this one because we talk a lot about it. There actually was just an article, I think it was either in Forbes or Business Insider, that said that Atlanta is probably, if not the most, one of the most highly educated regions in the country. We have been number one in business for years running. And so it really is a great region to do business. I think and this actually leads to the next question. I'll stop sharing just briefly because we're gonna come back to this. This was just awesome day. I love stuff like this, y'all. So a lot of us run home-based businesses, and to be honest, that is often seen as a perk that's connected to education, right? Because typically a lot of white collar jobs in many cases can be done from home, right? And so for people who run those home-based businesses, this is tricky, especially service-based founders like me. We work with very small, lean teams on purpose, and they end up being dispersed. And to be honest, the teams really might be us working with people who are really vendors. So, for example, my operations manager is provided to me and contracted to me through a company. And so on paper, right, to everybody else, it looked like she worked for me, but I know it's through a company. Can you all share your thoughts on how this impacts local economies? Because again, the work that I'm doing and the taxes that I'm paying as a business owner, they are benefiting the Atlanta region. But in my small dispersed team, they may be in some other part of the country or the world. So, how have you all perhaps seen this show up? I'll start with Dr. Parrish because we haven't heard from him in a minute.
I, I think that's a great point, and I think let's take remote work because of what our experience has been through COVID. It's been a great opportunity. Let's take Georgia from 2010 to 2023. 63 of Georgia's counties actually lost population. And it's happening all over the country. Rural counties are losing population. And typically what happens is maybe a plant shuts down and doesn't get reopened, and those people have to find work, and so they move to the big city where they can find a job. It's been really bad for rural counties around the country because people with opportunity and skills are the ones that leave because they're the ones that can find a job. And everyone there that's left is couldn't leave or doesn't have the skills or something, and they're left with all the bills, all the county taxes and all that stuff. This remote work and having employees that maybe work for your company And maybe they're contracted to multiple companies. Now it's freed a lot of them up to move to those areas. Maybe they want to go take care of aging parents and rebuild some of these small towns. A lot of people want to raise their kids in a small town because that's probably where they grew up. And so I see it as a great opportunity and a great thing that small business and other businesses have the opportunity to do. But it's great for the overall economy, not just those little towns. It means, let's say you've got 10 remote employees, you're here in Atlanta. Hey, let's be blunt, that cuts down on the traffic in Atlanta. It gives people the opportunity to live where they want to if they have those skills that they can work remotely. And so it's been a great opportunity for a lot of families to maybe go buy a couple of acres and get some chickens out in the country. I'm a farm boy. I love that stuff. So I think it's been a great thing. And then, you're not so tied to the business, especially with the technology that we have to pull that off these days.
I love that perspective. So I live in a little suburb. I'm not gonna say it because it's gonna be all over the internet. But I live in a suburb of Atlanta now. I lived in the city when I first moved here, and I really like where I live. I like to go to the city to do things, and I'm a city girl, born and raised in Detroit. I've lived in like 5 different major metropolitan regions, always in the city. This is one of my first times in life ever intentionally living outside of whatever the major city is from my region, and I really like it. And I've been thinking about exactly what you said, where it's like I would love to have more space, be able to have just like a quieter pace because again, I work from home. So I'm remembering when I lived, I'm gonna just name New York City. It's funny, they coming up a couple times in this, but it was so loud. So when I moved from New York to the next place, and I was like, why is it so quiet? I could hear my thoughts. What's going on here? What's happening? Because it just was overwhelming. And a lot of the work that I do is deep thinking work. I need blocks of time, and all of that noise now at my age, I'm like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to be bothered with that. So I definitely like the fact that it does create some spread. To that point though, I'm just gonna share the Census Business Builder tool one more time because remember, you all, like Nadal said, this is going by region. So when you're looking at statistics, and we're going to talk more about this in the last question coming up, region encompasses a bunch of cities. So it's not just maybe the small town that you're thinking of or even just the large city that you're considering. So please be mindful of that. That's why one of the first things Ndal said was you can start to localize this by zip code, track, county, etc. So go as deep as you need to get the insights that you need. Nadal, did you have anything to add or a different perspective?
Not really. I think just speaking from a data analyst perspective, not as an economist, which I'm not, the information that you're looking for could also be used in Census Business Builder to identify trends, movements of population, migrations from rural to cities, and that kind of thing. Again, just identifying those regions, observing those trends with the time series. You're also not limited to just evaluating a single geographic area per session. Like right now, we just have one metro area selected, but if you were to, you can actually build custom regions and evaluate them as a whole by selecting the region view right there. And then towards the bottom left, you want to click Create Region. And here you can just click anywhere on the map and it will begin adding those geographic areas to that region view. You're not limited to just a certain type of region. You can mix and match metros with counties, with cities, just as long as there's no overlap, because that could really mess, with the data analysis part of it. But this is also very helpful, so you can mix different rural areas and create a custom region of that larger region, and then really observe the trends and the movements in and out of that area. And then here you may want to select for your primary map variable, like population, total population, or something like that. Well, you can still, yeah, you can do it here.
This is so exciting. Okay, keep going.
Mhm.
Sorry, I'm getting hyped using this tool.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a few ways to change these variables. You can just click within the dashboard. You can click at the top ribbon. That's a good way. Go to your consumers and then demographics, and then just total population, or if you want to, delineate the types of populations, and then tab back over to your region view. And here you've got your geo ranking between one region to the other in terms of your population. So this basically describes those three. We only have in this case three regions that we've added to this view. So it compares those three regions to another in terms of total population. And to the right of that, you can select either the headings. You have Atlantic Sandy, and you can compare any one of those regions to another in terms of those four additional data items that are on the dashboard. So just a lot more functionality there that's available to you. Finally, really quickly, I'd like to say we have a reporting feature available in Census Business Builder. It's a whole nother thing that we could spend a lot of time on, but I'll be very brief. So if you click on reports at the bottom left of that dashboard, it will launch yep, right there. So if you click on that one, it will launch a report. And here, this gives you access to all of the data items, the entire universe of variables that are available in Census Business Builder, not just what you're limited to on the dashboard. So you could just scroll down. These are your top imports for for your custom region that you've created. These are the impacted products. And then again, all the demographic stuff there. You can click on total population. You can see the trends from the previous reporting period to the current one. And you can see how they compare to that of the whole United States, which is what to be expected. There's fewer folks in this area than there are nationally. But you can click any other data item within that. You can see percentage of different demographics and see how they compare to that of the United States, and how they've increased or decreased over time. And you could scroll down and do the same for any other variable. The next variable, the next set of the variables would be
Nadal, I want
socioeconomic.
to say something about that real quick because I know a lot of folks are interested that I've talked to are interested in starting healthcare related businesses. This
Hmm.
percent 65 and over. So whether that is, nursing homes, home health care, mobile phlebotomists or mobile health care, this is definitely a data set that you might want to think about because
Hmm.
remember we talked about having access to cars, things like that, or even ability to drive or willingness to drive anymore. You can see from the map Athens region to Greenwood, that's not necessarily that far. So if you get the right kind of vehicle, you might be able to create a booming business in something like that. So again,
Yeah.
by seeing this regional comparison, you can make great business decisions about
Hmm.
expansion.
Absolutely. And if you were to scroll down to the business summary, you can actually see the business climate for the healthcare industry in this area to see if it's worth investing. You can see the demand. Business summary would be a little bit further. Yeah, anywhere there. So these, like, we're not looking at healthcare industries. We have restaurants and other eating places right now, but just assuming that we had a healthcare industry selected on this report, this is what you would see. This is the landscape for the healthcare industry in this region. So combine that with the population of folks over, senior citizens. This may be a good opportunity. We can see how this is the employer establishments we're looking at. So different size classes for employers,
So can I
small
make a note
businesses.
about that? So sorry. Again, I love data, so I'm like
Yeah.
the thing with this, I want you all to think about this. So these are restaurants, right? Now remember the
Hmm.
narrative during the pandemic was restaurants are shutting down. But I want
Hmm.
you all to pay attention to the fact that most of the restaurants have probably 49 and fewer employees across all of the shifts that are available. But
Hmm.
really, the largest clusters are either with super small food businesses, which could possibly even include like mobile food trucks, and then these almost like mid-sized restaurants, which probably are going to be your chains. So
But
if
keep in
you're
mind we're looking at employer restaurants, not non-employer restaurants. So
exactly.
yeah.
So the point, no, I'm glad you said that. So the point
Hmm.
is that if you are a person who is thinking, oh, I can't start a restaurant because I'll need 15 people, guess what?
Hmm.
There are a ton of restaurants in this customized region area that have fewer than 5 employees. So
Hmm.
don't be dissuaded from your dream because you think you can only do it if it's going to be on a large scale. This is what I'm saying about informed
Absolutely.
decisions because it helps you to see, guess what? In this period, when things were really going south for this particular industry because we were all at home, guess what? People were still opening businesses and running businesses in this industry, even with only a handful of folks. So you don't have to let that stop you. So I just wanted to make sure to say that
Yeah.
to encourage folks who are on the fence about pursuing their dream because they don't think that they might be able to do it.
And a lot of folks, a lot of folks own and operate their own restaurants, and they're not employers, they're non-employer restaurants. So if you were thinking about opening a new establishment, then you would potentially need to convert from a non-employer to an employer. You can use this data to see, what is that looking like in this area? What pay, what is the average payroll per employee? How much am I expected to pay my employees in this, if I were to do this in this particular area, and is that trending upward or downward? So, another indicator.
I love this. Okay, so we only got a couple of minutes left. And to be honest, we kind of answered this question in talking about the fringe areas. I think, I would love to end today's call with just thinking about what is some encouragement that you all could offer small business owners who are like, man, I'm determined to do this. I'm determined to grow my business. I'm determined to make this happen. How can I navigate all of this? What is a piece of advice that you would give them? Nadal, I'm going to start with you, and then Dr. Parrish, I'm going to end with you.
I'm going to leave that to Dr. Paris because I can't give anybody advice for growing businesses, but I will say that Centus Business Builder, it's in the name, Centus Business Builder. We provide data to equip you with all of the information you need to make your business decisions. And I think if you were to really take a deep dive, create the right use cases, it will really assist you in making those decisions. And you can rely on the data because it comes from the Census Bureau and we have the highest quality standards.
Yeah, I've got to agree with Nadal that the data we use it all the time from Census Bureau. It's always good. It's always timely. They had a little delay during COVID, but so did everybody else. But when the data finally came out, it was good. But my encouragement here is, think about your life and your family. Most people get up in the morning and they go to work and they work for somebody else. I think about business owners who start their own businesses and grow it. Your probability of becoming a millionaire is substantially higher by opening your own business than it is working for someone else. And when you're thinking about kind of breaking out from, whatever your background is and being able to, provide some generational wealth and an established business to your kids, that's where the money is. And I mean, there's a lot of great businesses that are small, don't have a lot of employees. I know one in particular. I did a lot of business analysis and help businesses in some of my former jobs. And I remember this business in this small town of Dothan, Alabama. It's where my sister and my mother live. And I would have guessed that they would have been lucky to make $100,000 a year net profit when it was all over, to reinvest and all that stuff. These guys were so well managed and so efficient, and they really had their act together. They had $1 million plus net every single year, and I thought that I'd gotten someone else's books when I looked at it. It was just amazing the amount of cash, a legitimate business, a service that was needed, and it's just maybe it wasn't the sexiest business in the world, but I also tell the story. One other story. I asked people about my neighbors, and I said, listen, I said I've got two dentists, the chief economist, and a guy who owns an electrical contracting company, lived in my neighborhood down in Tallahassee. And I said, guess who the rich guy was? It's not the chief economist. It certainly wasn't the dentist. It was the guy who had built this small business, electrical contractor. He had the nicest cars and the nicest house, and took the fabulous vacations. And there's so much opportunity there to be your own boss and create wealth, generational wealth, that hey, it's very understandable why people want to get their own business. We hope they start small and maybe keep their job and work on their business till it's enough to, support enough income to do. But it's certainly still possible in America to do that.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate you all for being here. I know that the audience who is seeing this live and who is going to see it, because of course the replay will live on LinkedIn and YouTube. Please utilize these tools, the advice that we gave you. You know, study economics. It is not as overwhelming as we've been taught to believe. If you need to start small, please feel free to do so. I still have an economics textbook from high school sitting somewhere on my bookshelf because I pull it out every now and then. It is worth it to become well versed in these concepts. It is well worth it to become versed in the tools that are available to you. Because the best thing about everything we just talked to y'all about, guess how much it costs? $0. It is free 99. Your tax dollars have already paid for it. So this is not something where you got to go into a $15,000 masterclass. This is called pull up the website, click the links, and you in there. So again, please use these resources. I look forward to hearing all of the amazing stories of how you all are going to grow your amazing businesses through these tools. And if you want to reach out to Dr. Parrish or to Nadal, they of course are on LinkedIn. I'm going to make sure to put their information in the description for each of the events. Thank you, gentlemen, so much again for appearing with us today. All right, take care, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week and be good to each other. Thank you, y'all, so much. Oh my goodness. Thank you.